So a couple months or so ago, I don't really remember, I made some tweet about Fourier in this game and about his religion being Catholic, and I was like, he wasn't Catholic, he was something else. And in fact, he was something else. So I wanted to go down like his character sheet or whatever the fuck you call this, and like talk about his whole thing. The Fourier's project was about the liberation of the passions, of the desires from a moral philosophy via a restructuring of the family and of labor, of the household. And you would reorganize these things according to desire for luxury, for love, and for competition and intrigue. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I'll just be going down as a little character overview thingy and talking about stuff. We went through like ideas of amendments that could be added to the laws via pulse event if a character with like a potential Fourierist ideology was in government. Then like if the pulse event would pop, you could choose to add the amendment or not. Then whatever you do, there'd be some decaying bureaucracy penalty for setting up the reform. Possibly radicalize a percentage of upper strata too, or something. So yeah, for the stance on labor rights, it seems good, definitely good. Workers' protections is ideal, and possibly the amendment could be allowing for the 2-hour interval of labor duties, because as Fourier writes, a session of 2 hours duration in labor is the longest admissible in harmony. Enthusiasm cannot last any longer than that. If the work is unattractive in itself, the session should be reduced to 1 hour. The amendment could give something like plus 20% universal job attractiveness, or something like 10 to 20%, something like that, if that's possible. I don't know if that's possible. Maybe it could just add a production method that would do that for manufacturing and agricultural stuff. Or it could be plus 5% for each level of the labor rights institution. Yeah, for distribution of power, it definitely seems good. Fourier was definitely more concerned with economic and domestic organization than political organization. Roland Barthes, for example, writes, "The area of need is politics. The area of desire is what Fourier calls domestics. Fourier has chosen domestics over politics. Politics is what forecloses desire, save to achieve it in the form of neurosis. Political neurosis, or more exactly, the neurosis of politicizing." But so, in the economic and domestic reforms Fourier described, he showed that he wanted society reconstructed through a series of phalanxes, or 9-tribe series, which were a collection of passionate series, which are something like simultaneous worker and consumer syndicates that form themselves based on, for example, what type of pears they prefer to eat. With each group within the series growing their own preferred variety and competing among each group within the series and among each passionate series for the best products, which get rewarded monetarily and honorarily when people in each phalanx vote on if a certain series has produced a great product. The series can also be artistic and such, like musical or writing or putting on plays. And, just performing in the many festivals that Fourier describes will be taking place in his new society. So yeah, if these series and these phalanxes were to serve as also the politically organizing basis of society, we basically like a somewhat decentralized rule by unions of laborers, artisans, and artists. So I'd say an amendment representing this could give plus 15% political strength to laborers, engineers, and academics, as well as minus 50 authority or something like that. Then the governance principles. So they're definitely good. Like I just described, the political system based on voting by passionate series would be something like guilds or like corporate bodies. So corporate state isn't necessarily opposed, but Fourier does imagine that each person will be a member of multiple passionate series, so it's not exactly like a corporation in a corporate state. So, like, it's necessary for the 2-hour interval of labor duties that there would be each person would be in multiple passionate series. Fourier writes, 3 series of shepherds, field workers, and gardeners will become meshed by the process of reciprocal interchange of members every hour or so. Fourier is also not necessarily opposed to the monarchy. So social monarchy makes sense, although strongly opposed monarchy kind of makes sense because of political strength of aristocrats being strongly opposed, I mean. But yeah, because he often gives examples in his book, The Theory of the Four Movements, about the emperors and kings of Europe collaborating by exchanging their industrial armies, which I'll talk about later, to work on projects in their lands. So, like I said, he's just not very concerned with the political structures. Then on to the economic system. This is definitely good. Cooperative ownership is definitely should be ideal, but the rest is also good for him. Uh, yeah, so for the amendments, possible amendments, uh, because of the consumer integration in the Passionate series and the system of rewards, there should probably be a plus 15% or so increase in loyalists due to standard of living. And then with the industrial armies, like I mentioned. So, in each phalanx, Fourier proposed that 4 youths, presumably above the age of 18, since he also proposed the idea of an age of consent of 18, and it'd be 2 girls, 2 boys, would be elected on vestals on the basis of, for one couple, their skill and industriousness, and on the other, their beauty and charm and such. And these vestals would serve as leaders and sort of a point of attraction of these industrial and amorous armies, where other youths would join up in order to have the chance to be with the vestals or with other people who had already joined the industrial army. Then these armies would go on campaign doing industrial works, building things, digging canals, clearing fields, anything that needs to be done. And each night of the campaign, festivals would be held where people form amorous unions. That is, they have sex and become confirmed as couples the next morning by the industrial sexual bureaucracy known as the matronate. Those who are jilted by the person they love will be comforted by the bacchants or the gallants, the group of people in the army and in society. These are classes that exist in the rest of society that don't desire a single partner but want to be totally sexually free. And yeah, they have sex with the bacchants or whatever. And so I think there's 2 ways for this to be an amendment. The amendment itself could have the effects of possibly plus 10% construction sector throughput and plus 10% birth rate or so. Like, it might be overpowered, but I mean, they're fucking every night. And somehow increasing consumption of wine. I'm not sure how you do that exactly. Or making wine a consumption good of construction sectors. Or you could just have the amendment simply cause it every year an event will pop up. It's like industrial armies on campaign, and then we'll apply those effects for 2 or 3 months. Same with land reform. It should definitely only be collectivized agriculture endorsed, although, peasant proprietorship could be neutral, probably. But yeah, a passionate series cannot exist alone. It has to be among a bunch of other passionate series. So individual family plots and stuff is not Fourier endorsed. And then with slavery, he was definitely, in favor of banning slavery. He said something. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, that black people in the Americas, as a result of slavery and as a result of colonialism, will turn America into a huge graveyard, avenging the annihilated native races by torturing their conquerors. Because, the fall of slavery was imminent to Fourier. He thought it would just be Haiti everywhere. But yeah, then on to the other laws. For labor associations, example, they should possibly have a variant of corporatized unions called a passionate series, which gives like the same benefits or same effects, but then plus 10% Fourierist movement pop attraction, and then make the trade unions more likely to generate Fourierist characters. And Fourier was also famously a feminist. He even coined the term, so Fourierist ideology should be in favor of women's suffrage. And then to religion. So Fourier did believe in God. He wrote that atheism was ridiculous, but he's hostile to Christianity. Because his God was one who created everything, including desires, passions, perfectly. And he despised anything that's religion or moral philosophy, especially he hated philosophy, anything that sought to suppress the passions, rather than create a society where the passions could reach their harmonious ideal fulfillment in their liberation. He sometimes used God and nature interchangeably, like Spinoza, for example. Like, he spoke of the passions as both both as God's decrees and as nature's decrees. But it isn't clear to what extent this was the case. He never really talked about Spinoza, as far as I've read, or about, like, much about theology other than that. These passions are God-given. You're betraying God by wanting to suppress them. So I think there should be a new Fourierist religion. A Fourierist characters can have. Probably with the materialist trait, just like atheism. And there should be a legislation to adopt it as a state religion if the head of state is a Fourierist and there's high enough legitimacy or something. And in that case, the devout should probably become like the matronate or something like that. I should have Fourierist and like feminist as the IG ideologies. So yeah, he was literary. He wrote books. Political operator, I'm not totally sure what that's meant to represent in the game. So, like, I guess it's fine. And bigoted, he was definitely bigoted. He was anti-Semitic. He seemed to believe that Jews were just like they were all in this cabal, conspiring to, like, just be very good at capitalism. And he didn't like that. He didn't like that. He was also, funnily, extremely anti-Chinese. Any time in the Theory of the Four Movements that he brings up the Chinese, he, like, has to go on a rant about how they're, like, hypocrites and, like, they're so repressive and bad. And there's a funny thing where he talks about how, like, the Japanese are the best of the barbarians because they're more sexually liberated. And that he talks about how the Chinese will sail over to Japan to engage in the love affairs that their hypocritical ideals forbid. But yeah, that's Fourier.